the journeys of immigrants, the choices that folks have to make. There are not always the easy choices.
It's a mixed bag of experiences, a roller coaster of emotions to be a newcomer woman of color and immersing in the cultural canvas of Canada.
So Prachi is an award-winning journalist.
Drawn towards journalism from a very young age.
Tina has played integral roles in iconic shows like Kaun Banega Crorepati.
You have grown roots somewhere, you have your branches, you are flowering at a certain time, you're going through the seasons at a certain time, and then there comes a moment in your life when you are literally uprooted.
I was told that it's called migration trauma.
I work in communities where some folks don't have a choice, but no two immigration journeys look the same.
Don't let others define what your story is.
Women in the labor market are triply disadvantaged because of their gender, their immigration status, their racial background.
It's shocking to expect everyone to just fit into that mold and not complain. We all have a voice. We are all educated, qualified individuals, and we are definitely not going to be sitting quiet.
We are creating systems and resources. We are trying to support women regardless of what their backgrounds are.
Who could then exchange stories, exchange skills, and support each other's professional ambitions and aspirations. I want to feel as an immigrant woman that I can thrive in this ecosystem, that I'm being celebrated every day for the skills and for the talent that I am contributing to not just the job market, but to the Canadian economy and then to society.
Sat Shri Akal, Namaste, hello and welcome to the Truth Tribe Show. I'm your host Ravi Toor, and today we are discussing life of an immigrant woman and everything it entails, the good, the bad, and the ugly, with not one, but two very special guests, the visionary co-founders of the Immigrant Women Initiative, Prachi Jatania and Tina Balachandran. Ladies, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ravi. It's so exciting to be here and sharing this space with you.
Thank you, Ravi. Lovely to be here.
It's an honor to have both of you here, and I'm looking forward to our conversation. So Prachi is an award-winning journalist, having previously been involved with CNN News, Indian Express, and India Today. She has over 15 years of experience that span public and private sectors across multiple continents. Prachi's career in India included impactful roles in high-profile news environments, covering major events like the Mumbai terrorist attacks and collaborating with international bodies like the UK High Commission. Currently, she leads communications at Simon Fraser University for the Kids Brain Health Network, a national research organization that develops scientific advances in technologies, interventions, and supports for children with neurodevelopmental disabilities. Tina, on the other hand, is a creative and inspiring professional with a 2-decade-long journey in television and media production. With her roots in India, Tina has played integral roles in iconic shows like Kaun Banega Crorepati, Aapki Kacheri, with Kiran Bedi. She's also been part of Jhalak Dikhla Ja, Khelo Jeeto Jio, and many more. Moving to Canada, she shifted her dynamic media expertise towards advocacy, focusing on empowering immigrant women through storytelling and community engagement. Tina is currently serving as a manager at Diverse City, which is a nonprofit helping newcomers settle in Canada. Together, both of them founded IWI, that is Immigrant Women Initiative, out of a shared vision to tackle the unique challenges faced by skilled, racialized immigrant women in Canada. Their organization is dedicated to educating, supporting, and elevating the professional journeys of these women through an array of resources, mentorship, and advocacy. Super excited to chat with both of you and to learn from you today. To start us off, in your own words, who are you and what do you do?
Before we move forward, I wanted to say a quick piece of land acknowledgement that I am joining from Burnaby, which is located on the ancestral and unceded territory of the Hankamin and Squamish-speaking peoples. And before Burnaby existed, its lands were home to the ancestors of several local descendants and local Central Coast Salish nations. I recognize that I am an uninvited settler on this land, and I'm aware of my own privileges, and I will use it to break biases. This is where I am speaking from. I'm celebrating the unique culture of the First Nations people. I wanted to acknowledge the land I'm joining you from on this podcast. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction, Ravi. So excited to be here and share our journeys with you. So I'm Prachi. I'm a corporate and social impact storyteller, and I worked both in public and private sectors. About 21 years of my working career now. I'm also a working mom and spouse of a veteran Indian Navy officer. Tina and I are co-founders of the Immigrant Women Initiative. I am also a newcomer to Canada.
Who am I and what do I do? I'm a storyteller. I'm a community builder. I believe in creating safe spaces for folks to have an opportunity to thrive and live their best. I am a mother of 2 teenagers. My day job is working as a manager for the local immigration partnership. And I am honored to share this space as a co-founder and what I call Prachi, my partner in good karma, that we are able to create this space and this community for immigrant women in Canada.
That's lovely. And I'm super excited to dive into that. But before we get started there, how would you define immigrant experience for someone who hasn't ever come across one? Somebody who has no idea what it means to be an immigrant. How would you define your immigrant journey or the immigrant experience?
It's a mixed bag of experiences and anecdotes. In a nutshell, it's been a roller coaster of emotions and lived experience to be a newcomer woman of color and immersing in the cultural canvas of Canada. It's giving me a unique opportunity and also an insight in meeting people from various walks of life, but also very different cultures. And I see Vancouver as a microcosm of many diverse perspectives, people from many different cultural backgrounds. And so if I were to give it some sort of an analogy, I would say coming from Mumbai, which is a very busy, thriving metropolis and the heart of a cosmopolitan cultural mix of people, Vancouver, in a way, is a much, much smaller cultural mix of people, languages, perspectives, and experiences. And so very often I find myself comparing these two cities. And as a new immigrant, I look at my life in Vancouver in a very fresh lens. It's almost like Prachi as an individual 4.0, if I were to say that. And I see myself taking in new cultural experiences and learning so much every day, but also challenging my own notions of belonging, diversity, and rediscovering who I am and my own beliefs and values.
That's lovely. I think that's a story of every immigrant, is like trying to rediscover yourself and trying to align with this new country. Tina, what would you add to that? How would you define being an immigrant? What does that mean?
This is a very interesting question, and I have to be very mindful that I keep it very concise because this is, we could spend the entire podcast on this topic. No two immigration experiences look the same. And to your question, Ravi, immigration and the journeys of immigrants, the choices that folks have to make, there are not always the easy choices. I work in communities where some folks don't have a choice and they have to look for a home outside their home. It could be conflict, it could be trauma, but no two immigration journeys look the same. I have 2 analogies to share, and 2 analogies also represent 2 different type of immigration journeys. One analogy that's very close to my heart and kind of resonates with me is at a certain age, the age that I immigrated to Canada, you're fully grown in terms of, let's say, a tree. You have grown roots somewhere, you have your branches, you are flowering at a certain time, you're going through the seasons at a certain time, and then there comes a moment in your life when you are literally uprooted. You are like out from here, plucked away, or whatever the term is used for trees, a fully grown tree. And then you are repotted. And in this case, I'm calling it a tree because I was clearly not a plant that could be repotted. So I had to find the ground, a ground where you grow, you first get started, you grow the roots, and then the whole piece of whether you're going to thrive, whether you're going to flourish or not comes into existence. So for me, the immigration experience in my personal case has been that of a tree, because I was at that stage in my professional and personal journey where I wasn't really looking for a change, but different circumstances prompted us to make this change. And I felt that I was like that fully grown tree that was uprooted, and then I had to find a new sort of home. And that comes with its own sort of, there is a process of getting used to the space, getting used to the environment around you, and learning to how you're going to take what works for you in that environment that is going to allow you to thrive and survive. So first it's survival and then it's thriving, right? So for me, that analogy is what comes to my mind whenever I think of an immigrant's journey. But it's been a very interesting and a very eventful journey. I feel very fortunate to be able to have opportunities to work with a very large, eclectic mix of people. I think it's culturally, Vancouver, as Prachi was saying, we are so fortunate that we have such a rich cultural sort of tapestry here, which gives us an opportunity to learn, grow. We are all unique, but we are all different. So I think that has been really fascinating to realize that how different we are and how unique we are with our differences. So that's something that I really cherish in my day-to-day work that I do, in the spaces that I hold, in the communities that I'm building. And I don't see many opportunities like this in many other places for immigrants. There are lots of pluses in that space as well.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you hit the nail on head as well. So I love that analogy of the tree being uprooted. I think in your case, that is really apt because you had such an extensive career back home and you were so ingrained into it. So just to shed some light onto it, can you give me a brief overview? And it doesn't matter which sort of chronological order it comes in, but just an overview of your 20-year-long career and what would you categorize as the top highlight of it?
So in my 20 years of professional career as a television professional, I was working on a very wide variety of television broadcasting programming, which ranged from infotainment to entertainment. So I had successfully worked on projects which were a lot of international formats, which were adapted to the Indian market. And these were award-winning shows like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, Dancing with the Stars, Canada's Got Talent, and multiple other genres of television. I feel that I was part of the television broadcast wave in India that had happened where we were doing some incredible progressive work. So the work that was being done at that time was way ahead of its time. So no FOMO that I don't do that any longer because the work that I did at the time was really very remarkable. So I was very fortunate to work with some incredible people, incredible teams. But there came a time in my life when television had to take a backseat for personal reasons. And I often give this reasoning that why I slowed down with television and I diverted and pivoted to storytelling and working with children and youth. Because when you become a parent, you realize how many isms your generation has contributed to. Sexism, racism, terrorism, and extremism, multiple isms. And I found it very hard to change the mindset of people who were my peers. And I realized that it's easier to work with youth and children because they are fresh, raw, vulnerable, and so pure that it's probably easier to make them realize that they have a choice to make the world a better place. And that's when the pivot to from television to theater, storytelling, and working in the social justice space happened. So after taking a backseat from television, not a full backseat, I started working with a lot of not-for-profits. And I started working with children and youth and set up a theater company and did a little bit of that work before I moved to Canada.
And what sparked your interest in Canada? What initiated that move for you?
Our choices were very personal. My husband, who's a sailor boy, he was working with a shipping company and he got an opportunity to work in their head office in Vancouver. And because he's not going to like this, so maybe I'll not let him hear this part. And Prachi is also a sailor's wife. I was just very tired of solo parenting. So I wanted us to drop anchor somewhere in the world. And at that point, Ravi, honestly, it didn't matter what the location was. I had reached that stage where I was just like, the girls are growing up too fast. They need both set of parents to be around them. So hence the choice, Canada, it could have been any other place. But Vancouver was one alternative that came our way. Hence, we chose Vancouver. We said it's far, but that's okay. Let's go and figure it out.
That's where the adventure lies as well. So thank you for sharing that. Prachi, you have an extensive career as well. I was watching some of the stuff that you have covered. You've done IPL, you have done elections, you have done some really big events. Give us a brief overview of your career in a nutshell.
My career in a nutshell. Growing up, I was fascinated. Television had just come to many homes, including mine, and I was fascinated by news and current affairs. And both my parents are very avid readers of many newspapers. And so growing up, I watched them consuming news very attentively. And also we started watching a lot of current affairs and news capsules on TV. So I was drawn towards journalism from a very young age. And I knew that if nothing else, I will definitely be a journalist. My father was very keen that I should take up either sports or business journalism. He was just fascinated with that for some reason. But that was not to happen. I did dabble a bit on reporting on sports events and business events. However, primarily I reported on current affairs, breaking news, and many evolving new situations that you briefly referenced. And I was lucky to learn from and very closely work with many senior journalists of my time, and fortunate to learn from all of these journalistic stalwarts and leaders. And that's what shaped my own career in journalism and reporting. I worked briefly with India Today Group, but I started my career with a local newspaper called Midday in Mumbai, and then moved to the Indian Express. So I've been very fortunate to learn from fantastic newsroom leaders who are themselves now veteran journalists, still very much talking truth to power. And that's how my own journey in journalism and current affairs shaped up.
Beautiful. And so what led you to come to Canada? Was your story somewhat similar to Tina's story, or was there another thing that sparked your interest to Canada?
Yeah, in a way, there are definite overlaps with Tina's journey here. So my husband was serving in the Indian Navy for 20 years, and he decided that he wanted more time with family, and he made a career decision to take voluntary retirement from the Navy. And he wanted a different phase or a career transition. So he decided to pursue his specialization in business management here at UBC Saurer School of Business. And he moved here. And so we followed as a family because this gave us an opportunity to be together and to parent our 11-year-old daughter. And so we were very keen to be a part and be a family together and live in the same space, because as is with the armed forces, he had many forward deployments leading a warship and navigating many different opportunities and phases in his Indian Navy career. So this new career transition and the choices he made professionally gave us the opportunity to actually follow him and support him in his choices.
That's lovely. And I thought it was important to set that ground just to establish your credibility. Because when I was going through the work that you both have done, I wouldn't say intimidated, because I don't think it's a right word, but almost fascinated by the work that you have done. Because some of those shows I've grown up listening to just in my day to day. And then to talk to you who have been behind the scenes and doing some of the work, I'm almost in awe of everything that you have done. So I just wanted to highlight that. So now we are in Canada. Both of you moved to Canada due to your own reasons. How did your paths cross? How did you two meet each other?
Prachi and our paths crossed back home, actually. We both have known each other from our home country, India. Prachi has a wonderful sister-in-law who happens to be one of my very dear closest friends. So when our children were very small, our paths crossed at that point, and we used to often meet, never knowing that at one point we will be sharing this space with you, Ravi, and talking on a podcast about this initiative that we have co-founded. So we knew each other back home, and then we came a couple of years before they arrived. So when Prachi and her husband decided that, okay, Vancouver is looking like a place that they are going to be dropping anchor now, they connected with us, and the rest is history.
Lovely. And Prachi, so when you came to Canada, because you are the recent one who came to Canada, I think Tina came here before you. Was it everything that you imagined it to be? What were some shocks?
Oof, a very loaded question. And Tina knows this up close because she's seen me at my most rawest emotions, tears welling up and finding it so hard to process. And some people have helped me unpack what those emotions are called or to define them in a way. And I was told that it's called migration trauma. And so I know that I use the word trauma very, very deliberately here. It's because it's a whole new landscape. It's a completely new cultural experience. And again, as Tina briefly mentioned, not to reveal too much of our age, but because of the stage of our personal journeys and where we are in our lives, in our life stage, it just felt very overwhelming and intense landing here. A really mixed bag of emotions. First, to be able to help my daughter adapt to a completely new environment, and also then myself adapt as a working parent, navigate many new questions, understanding the different systems, healthcare system, social system, trying to find a sense of belonging and some cultural resonance without leaning in too much into familiar familiar places or people, also still being open to new experiences and new perspectives. So it's a lot to unlearn, but also a lot to allow yourself to be vulnerable in those situations, moments, and experiences. So there were many difficult days when I questioned my decision to be here, and many phases of self-doubt.
I love that term that you used there, migration trauma. I think it's very apt. I think actually, this is the first time I've come across this, but it's actually a very real term. Just thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, this is true. Tina, I'm going to turn over to you. Can you give me a lowdown of what you see out there with other immigrants, especially women immigrants? What are some challenges they face?
I'm going to just take a piece from what Prachi earlier shared about what immigration can look like and what migration trauma is and what it does to different people at different times. You come as an immigrant with a lot of mixed bag emotions, there is excitement, there is inhibition, there are aspirations. Again, it looks different for different people because your choices of immigrating to a country can look very different. You are looking for different things. Having said that, everybody needs a space where they can have that sense of belonging, where they can have that sense of, okay, I bring certain qualities, qualifications, skill sets, certain parts of my culture and my being that will add value to the space that I'm going to. So when we first came here, and I know that was not exactly the question you had asked, Ravi, but I just want to go a little bit into that. When we first came here, there was obviously a lot of excitement and aspiration, but never for a moment, whether it was me or my husband, did we ever have any doubts in our mind that I will have to struggle finding my sense of belonging. Because now my sense of worth and my sense of belonging for me as an individual is very interconnected with my professional and my personal sort of narrative, who I am as an individual. What do I bring to the community? What is my sense of being? Because I started working when I was 18 years old. And something that I didn't mention earlier was that I joined the media as a profession when media was not a very sought after profession. It was notorious. And I remember the battles my father had to fight because he was like, nope, she's doing that. She's chosen that path. She's doing that. So one of the last things that was on our mind was that it's going to be challenging. I knew culturally it's going to be different. I had traveled a lot in my life. And I knew, yes, of course, you can't make friends immediately. Of course, you can't find the, perfect job for yourself or the perfect community that you're going to blend in. But is it going to be this hard and this challenging? I didn't expect that. And I would like to give myself a certain tick in the boxes. I did not have certain barriers, which a lot of other immigrants feel. So why I'm bringing this up is because I want to bring it to the question that you actually asked about what it is, what does it look like for women in the community? Because women are at multiple levels disadvantaged. First, what Prachi said, if you're coming in as a family, your first priority is that you want to settle your children. Some children don't come from backgrounds where English is their first language. They don't come from backgrounds which are as assimilated with the education system as our Canadian background is. There are so many cultural nuances to that. The food is not the same. The language is not the same. Yes, globalization and the way things are right now in the world, they've broken down some barriers, but they've also built barriers. We don't look the same. We don't speak the same language. We don't eat the same food. The way we greet each other is so different. So when women in general, I'm now going to generalize that when you're coming in as an immigrant woman in a community, there are multiple things that you're first trying to take care of before you can even think about yourself. Mm-hmm. You are such low on the list of priorities that by the time you get to that, you've realized that how far things have gone. And then there are all these other added pressures that come in. The job search is not what it looks like. The foreign credentials are not what it looks like. If someone like me had to struggle for a job search, I can imagine what women out there who may or may not have that much of experience, may or may not have worked for that long, or this could be the first time that they have decided that, okay, now that we are here, I need to step out in the labor market and I need to contribute to that in my family. There are a lot of women I come across who are first-time job seekers in the community. So women, often I say, in the labor market are triply disadvantaged because of their gender, because of their immigration status, and because of their racial background. Racialized women are even more disadvantaged. But for an immigrant woman, the challenge is the kind of that vicious circle is like that concentric circles. You're constantly trying to get one circle, move from one barrier to another. And if you don't have a strong community, if you don't have that sense of belonging, a sense of tribe that you can lean into for support when you need that support, it can be crippling. It can be crippling. Because one of the hardest things, Ravi, was people asking me to rewrite my narrative. And I see that happening with immigrant women every single day. This is all that I knew. This was my identity. Okay, now I'm really aging myself. I arrived in Canada when I was 42 years old. I did not know Tina any other way. Now, if you're telling me remove this from your resume, stop telling people about all these things, Ravi, that you're so impressed with, I was told in so many words, you need to dumb it down. You need to stop intimidating people because you're overqualified. Nobody's going to give you a job. But this is all I knew. And my sense of self-worth, for whatever its reason, was associated with what my professional future looks like or where I stand as an individual, as a professional. Mm-hmm. And rewriting the narrative that immigrant women have to do at every step of the way, because they are wearing multiple hats as caregivers, as mothers, as partners, and then they are building this community for their children, for their family. I think that is brutal, because don't tell them that this is it. You need to start from scratch and you need to erase everything that you have so far been identified or celebrated for. I don't know whether that still answers your question, but
it sure does. It hits on a lot of those points that I wanted to touch on, and gives me a lot of things that I want to dive into now. So when you say that rewriting your narrative, so what would be a flip of that? What would you do instead of rewriting your narrative?
A flip of rewriting your narrative would be meeting you where you're at. You are a professional who comes with XYZ skills. Oh, these are transferable skills. These are skills that the Canadian job market needs in this area, and hence you will be an asset to this thing. So that cultural orientation, a labor market orientation, and meeting skilled professionals who are coming with qualifications and skill sets, meeting them where they are at in their professional journey, rather than expecting them to erase everything that they have learned. Yes, relearning, unlearning is a part of growth as an immigrant. And even as individuals, if I today tell myself that, okay, that's it, I'm done. I've learned everything that I needed to learn before my immigration journey, and I don't need to learn anything. No, that's not the case. We are constantly learning, relearning, and unlearning, and which is important because we're also living in a very evolving, turbulent world right now. Nothing looks the same anywhere in the world. If you ask me, we all live in a pre-COVID, post-COVID era. And if today, look at what the next 6 months are going to be like. Half the world is going into elections, and some democratic, some not so democratic, but they're going to be electing new governance models and new governments in their countries. We are living in very fast, evolving, moving, turbulent times. Accepting the fact that what they are bringing in is of value, because that value can be adapted to the Canadian context also. Of course, in regulated professions where folks need to undergo specialized training and specialized skill building, which needs to be identified with the Canadian laws or Canadian regulations, that's totally understandable. But for instance, one thing that comes to my mind is I was working on a project and there were many nurses involved in that project. And there was this one nurse who shared with me that between her partner and her, they decided that the husband would go first into nursing because the children were too small at that point. She mentioned that if she doesn't undergo XYZ certification in the next 6 months, she will be pushed back 10 years in her nursing career.
Oh, wow.
She was a nurse from Philippines who had worked with her partner in Dubai. And now she had enrolled in UBC at a program. But she said, Tina, if I don't complete this certification, I'll be pushed back 10 years. So if there was a system that was meeting her where she was at, but obviously she would undergo certain kind of policies and procedures and training that are specific to that job, you're not pushing somebody 10 years into their career.
I also want to add here the expectation that newcomers or immigrants from any part of the world would get into a mold, a preset mold determined by standards set by others, is not only discriminatory, it's also unrealistic. Because while you're expecting somebody to land here and showcase transferable skills or make a case to recognize their credentials and to recognize their certifications, they're following all those processes. And let's put aside refugees or people escaping armed conflict or many other criteria. Let's look at a very straightforward case like mine or Tina's or many other women who come as spouses on an open work permit or even permanent resident permit holders are expected to fit into a mold that has been precast and the criteria has been predetermined by somebody else. Probably completely outdated criteria to make it even more difficult and challenging is just, in this era, it's shocking to expect everyone to just fit into that mold and not complain or challenge those unrealistic expectations. We all have a voice. We are all educated, qualified individuals, and we are definitely not going to be sitting quiet and being dumb puppets, not questioning this rationale.
And just want to add one thing, Ravi, what Prachi said. We are a nation built with immigrants and on our very sort of robust immigration policies. And immigrants are not just contributing. Of course, we are specifically talking right now in the sort of space of labor market and economic immigration, but the social impact, the social canvas that immigrants are contributing to, we cannot underestimate that. It's not calculable. If you ask me, the value that immigrants are bringing in to the Canadian sort of society and the Canadian system is incalculable. If we start giving a dollar amount to it,
yeah, it would paint the picture definitely for everybody in there. And I would just like to add in there as well. So in Prachi's point there, I think you're very correct. Is this mold that is created, it's not created by people who have lived through those experiences, right? It's not created by people who have gone through the struggles, who know what needs to be done to then make those systems for others to make it easier for them. So that's one. And around the foreign credentials, I was speaking with somebody on my last conversation, and they were an immigrant 40 years ago, and the foreign credentials weren't recognized then. They're still not recognized, and there still isn't a plan to recognize them, right? So that tells you a lot about how the system is being taken care of in Canada over the last little bit. So on that note, so we have identified what the problems were. We have established your credibility of everything that you have done. So what led you to start Immigrant Women Initiative? What was the moment that you're like, you know what, we need to take the initiative. We need to do something about it. Whose idea was it, and how did it all start?
I think we both Tina and I had been having a conversation, and we had been sharing our own struggles and challenges with the barriers that we were facing as very qualified, experienced professionals coming from a very thriving industry and sector. And we knew that our passion and our heart lies in being media professionals, or being open to pivoting our careers if required, or at least finding a way to align transferable skills to the new set of qualifications or career paths that we wanted to take. But every time that Tina and I spoke, we both exchanged stories, anecdotes, and experiences of continuously being asked to validate a Canadian work experience, being told by many other women who were reaching out to us on LinkedIn, on WhatsApp, or through common acquaintances and contacts, actually echoing the exact same sentiments and exact same experience and challenges that we were both living through. And Tina had already lived through that. She was literally navigating those conversations and that experience of pivoting her career, while I had just arrived and I was meeting with the same kind of initial resistance, questions. Every time we spoke, we recognized that it was a repetition of the same kind of barrier. And we realized that individually there was only so much we could do in our personal capacities, but there was an entire change in status quo, an entire questioning of this is how it's done, this is how it needs to be done, this is all that can be done. And again, we were being presented with a pre-molded canvas that this is all that you will fit in. This is where your stories can fit in, your professional journeys can fit in. And we weren't willing to accept that. And so we knew that there was a clear need for finding that belonging, finding allies, finding other women and a tribe of skilled professional immigrant women who could then exchange stories, exchange skills, lean in and support each other's professional ambitions and aspirations and learn from each other, right? Because at different stages of our careers, we have both, and I'm speaking freely on behalf of Tina, but we have both benefited with mentorship, with guidance from people in our industry, but on different sectors. And so we recognize the need to have a community that other skilled immigrant women can lean in. And this is the space we wanted to build when we first arrived here in Canada. This is the place, that the environment that we were hoping we would have received or had to tap into when we first started navigating those questions and barriers around our own professional journeys.
That's lovely. And kudos to both of you to take the initiative and take the lead on that. So Tina, who are you helping and how are you helping?
I'll just add one more thing that Prachi just shared before I dive into the question, who are we helping and how are we helping? This is a space, as Prachi said, we wished upon, that was there when we first came. And this is a space for women regardless of their background, regardless of where they are in their career path, regardless of what their qualifications are or what their aspirations are. So it's a space for women who are looking for leadership aspirations. They are middle management. They are looking for entry-level jobs, or even women who are just looking for connecting with other women who they can have these healthy relationships of mentoring, relationships where they can guide each other from their own lived experiences or share best practices that are happening in different sectors. So this is really inclusive, collaborative ecosystem that we are trying to build. To your question, Ravi, about who are we helping and how are we helping? I don't think we are helping anybody. For me, we very humbly accept we don't have all the answers. It's not that Prachi and I are promising people promotions, promising people jobs, or promising people successes in their professional journeys. That's our wish. We are creating systems and resources, collaborating with the other community members to support them. So I would just want to flip that, and who we are trying to support are women regardless of what their backgrounds are. These are women who identify themselves as skilled professional women who are at different stages of their immigration journey. They don't need to be newcomers. They could be women who have taken a hiatus from work, who are transitioning back into workforce after X number of years of motherhood. Women who want to advance in their professional journeys, this is a community for those women, self-identified women at any stage of their immigration journey. So it's not that we ask people what's that called? The status? Yeah, what their residency status is. That's not a criteria, because you could be at any stage in your professional journey. The how is something that we are constantly developing and evolving. And how we are evolving that is also through feedback from the community. So through our own lived experiences, some of the systems that we have navigated, we continue to navigate, women who have been coming to connect with us organically, women who were reaching out even before Prachi and I initiated the Immigrant Women Initiative, the learnings that we are taking forward from that. What is the gap that is existing? Because it's not that what we are providing is only provided by us. We are evolving based on the needs of the community. And I think that is somewhere where I think if you ask me a question where our strength lies, our strength also lies in that. Because we don't have a rule book. It's not that we have figured it out and we are creating this curriculum. We are understanding based on our surveys, based on our engagements in the community, based on the meetups that we create in the community. What is it that women are looking for? What kind of support are they looking for? What kind of leveling up engagement they are looking for? And that's how we are creating those spaces to bring that support to them. We also are very intentional in making sure that the knowledge partners in the community are getting opportunities to contribute. So today you may be entering the Immigrant Women Initiative community as someone who's receiving the knowledge, who's engaging in a session and is walking away with some information on career pivoting or some information on what are the top 5 sort of tips to keep in mind when you're going in for an interview or whatever. And tomorrow you could be, as a professional, a knowledge partner in the community. So we want to create this space where everyone has that sense of ownership, because you are a part of a community, you're building that community together. So if you ask me that what is the timeline for someone to be part of IWI and where does it start and where does it end? It's just very beautifully seamless, because it's been very organic in the way in the last 10 months that women who were part of the community in one form are now engaging in the community by being knowledge partners, collaborators, mentors, volunteers, and they are suggesting spaces that can be created that are accessible to other community members then.
So in a way, taking all that information and then paying it forward in other ways back to the community. So let's say somebody is a new immigrant woman. She's come across your initiative and she wants to sign up. What would be the intake look like? What can somebody expect in the first, let's say, month, 2 weeks? What does that process look? I was on your website. I know there's different membership options as well. So if you want to touch on that.
So the intentionality was that we did an entire pilot of our various workshops, our knowledge sessions and experiential sessions. In the first few months, Tina and I began the journey, and all of the feedback and insights that we received from community members, from women who attended these workshops and knowledge sessions, we were able to then design or continue to design our programming according to that. So again, we are using data-led and evidence-led insights and feedback from the community to then design our workshops and programs to meet with those expectations. And the membership model was meant only to be a soft launch. For now, we are continuing to identify knowledge partners and corporate partners as well, so that we make sure that the community that we are building together is as accessible and inclusive to women who may be very early career professionals, women who have just arrived maybe 2 months or 6 months into their immigration journey or arrival in Canada and may have no employment to even pay for some of our workshops or membership. And so be able to then facilitate corporate partners who can allow for that accessibility of a certain number of members or a cohort. And we are doing this in a very intentional and deliberate manner so that when we actually do announce publicly or promote our membership, that it is a limited cohort. And when we say limited, that would mean that both Tina and I, alongside our knowledge partners, feel equipped to be able to meet the needs and requirements of each of the members. For example, if one early career professional has signed up, and as you see that we want to make sure that the membership model is financially viable, what they get is access to either group mentoring sessions in their sector or industry that either they are in their pre-arrival status or want to pivot to, because a lot of women we speak to are intentionally pivoting their careers, are looking to deliberately find new skills and find new sectors and careers they want to explore for whatever personal and professional reasons, so that we are able to identify these early career professionals and support and equip their aspirations through tailored mentoring sessions. Either one of them or a group of them need a resume analysis of their jobs and the qualifications or jobs they're applying for, or they want to be able to find a mentor in their sector. So if they're pivoting from retail to, say, tech sales, or from tech to consumer, then there is somebody we have already identified. We match them with those mentors, or we facilitate a conversation and meeting between these individual women, and they are able to have a conversation and find resources and insights which they can then use and apply to their own career journeys. Separately, we also are meeting the needs of many of our community women who are saying that they are middle or senior level managers, but they want to find opportunities even more senior, or somebody who has navigated the leadership matrix in their own professional journeys. So these are women who want to push the envelope of taking on leadership roles, or want to be able to build their own entrepreneurial ambitions, right? There are people actually willing to design their own e-learning courses. There are women who want to grow their passion and hobbies into an economical side hustle. So we are then tailoring all of the needs of individual members or a group of members or community women who can then identify and utilize their membership to fully tap into their professional aspirations. So in our day jobs, both Tina and I recognize that we don't want to bite off more than we can chew. We want to be completely non-transactional. We want to provide, again, those allyships, those support systems that women can lean into and find ways to engage with one another, learn from one another. Because at various stages of each skilled professional immigrant woman's career, there are different needs they have. There are different dreams that they are building towards. There are many goals that they are actually wanting to work towards. So we design our workshops and our knowledge sessions by listening in and taking in the feedback to then plan our programming. And it's entirely based on the feedback that we get. Some of the costs of our membership, of course, will go into operations, logistics, and making sure that we acknowledge and recognize the time and the skills and expertise that our knowledge partners are bringing. So let me give you a quick example. We have knowledge partners who are mental health and wellness experts. We have knowledge partners that are leaders in sales and tech sectors. We have knowledge partners who are career development practitioners. And we are working actively to identify with these knowledge partners what works for them, either group sessions or individual sessions, and then we are able to curate our workshops according to these needs.
So I guess my question to you is, because you see what the gaps are that exist out in the market, some of the struggles that these immigrant women are going through, if you were to make any changes in the way the system is set up today, what would those changes be and why?
Wow, that's a very important question and a very loaded question. The first thing that comes to my mind is access, making sure that the resources are accessible. Right now, there are resources, but are they accessible to women in the community? I'm not very sure. Since women are at different stages of their immigration journey and they're at different stages of their professional journey of integrating into the Canadian labor market, it's very imperative to make sure that you are meeting them where they are with their needs, where they are with their aspirations, and breaking the barriers, not from a cookie cutter approach, but breaking the barriers from a tailored approach. Mentoring is something that everybody is talking about it, but there are not, it can be a very complex thing also. So creating those spaces for mentoring, the cultural nuances that come into play when we are talking about volunteering and mentoring is something that we have to be very mindful of when we are working with immigrant women. We don't, not necessarily everybody is coming from a culture where networking, mentoring, and volunteering are a way of life. If we were to make system changes at multiple levels, we would need to really make sure that we are meeting people with where they are at and where they are coming from. What is the kind of background, the professional background of professionals from their country looks like? What are some of the sort of nuances that they bring in? And how can we then create systems where you are setting them up for success and you're setting them up for integration into the labor market, which is going to support their growth and it's going to support their contribution. No cookie cutter approach, but really making sure that folks are getting the support they get in terms of a tailored, customized support. Prachi touched upon the mentoring piece a little while ago. If someone is looking for a mentor or professional guidance or professional sort of feedback or information in a very specific banking sector, and you keep giving them this package, which is cross sectoral, you're really not allowing them to take in the information. So right now we are at that stage where there is abundant talent. There is a lot of raw, untapped potential that is out there because folks are coming in from very varied sectors. The amount of incredible work that women are doing in STEM is absolutely like phenomenal. If you're not going to be able to match the skill set to the contribution that they can make in the sector, then there is something that we are missing out on. And we are then wasting time training folks who probably would take longer than folks who are ready to assimilate and integrate immediately.
Yeah, 100%. Prachi?
Yeah, and I want to say that a lot of this is historical, right? Because we've read enough and more literature now about how the Canadian immigration system has also evolved, but has the intake has evolved, right? The need from semi-skilled to skilled professionals and skilled immigrants has changed. And so the patterns of immigration have changed, the criteria has changed. But has the system kept up with that? Not necessarily in every sector. So somebody like Tina and Prachi with so much of journalistic media production background is coming in and not getting the opportunities or having so many barriers or strings attached or conditionalities attached that this is what you need to do. This is how we think you need to be positioning your skills. And this is the only way, is doing a lot of disservice to the talent and skills and the canvas that we can actually use to be passionate and to contribute to Canadian economy. This is not at all about regulated professions. This is about anybody who has the qualifications and professional skills from their pre-arrival roles to be able to then integrate and apply those skills to the needs of the Canadian job market. And the job market needs have changed, but the systems haven't kept up with it. And that is what we want to continue to emphasize. We, as immigrant women, as marginalized, underrepresented groups of women of color, we want to be able to not just survive in the Canadian job market with entry-level jobs or with just being happy, oh my God, I have a job in tech or in STEM or in engineering. But I want to feel as an immigrant woman that I can thrive in this ecosystem, that I'm being celebrated every day for the skills and for the talent that I am contributing to not just the job market, but to the Canadian economy and then to society. So this is a much larger conversation about what marginalized, underrepresented women can do and are capable of contributing. So not only through the Immigrant Women Initiative, we are challenging and redefining or wanting to redefine the status quo, the conversation of equity, diversity, and inclusion in its fullest sense. And this is going to make and has made a lot of people uncomfortable. And we know that. While we are coming from a place of privilege and having known the right language and having the capacity to be able to be here actually speaking in this voice freely with you, we recognize that and we are mindful of that opportunity and the space. But we also want to let folks know that this is an area of discomfort because we want to unpack the conventional system of this is what a woman of color, an indigenous black persons of color or women of color can do or are supposed to be doing, but we are not willing to just be happy with that or be content with that. We want to see ourselves in leadership roles. We want to be able to have spaces and opportunities to have a seat at the table.
Yeah. So don't let others define what your story is. And at the same time, I'd say what a waste of talent that would be if you're not putting people to what they're really meant to be and what their true passion is. And you two are just two examples. There's like millions, thousands, I would say, in and across Canada that are not really doing what they have learned to do or what they're really great at and excel at. So just on that note, can you share a success story with Immigrant Women Initiative, something that you're really proud of?
I think there are many highs, and the fact that every day the validation that we are getting in the community, the organic way in which women are coming forward, being part of the community, again at different stages, either they want to be part as a volunteer or they want to be part as a mentor, or they are saying that you folks are doing something that we wish the women whose shoulders we are standing on, they had these opportunities. I think success looks different at different stages, Ravi, but the fact that every time we show up in the community, we get to hear that we need more of these spaces. We wish these spaces existed. How can we make a contribution to this space is a success in itself. If you ask me for a tangible success, I think the last session that we were able to do, we call them our monthly meetups, but for International Women's Day, we did something, we tried something on a very short notice at a very large scale. As Prachi earlier mentioned, we both have very demanding day jobs, young families, but then we were like, it's going to be a disservice not to do something for International Women's Day. We are not the kind of women who say that you only celebrate women on International Women's Day. I think that's very evident by now. But to honor the fact that what was the theme for the Women's Day, what is it that we wanted to do in the community, again, creating that space was very beautifully received. We had women CEOs who were leading the dialogues for a fireside chat. We had hospitality done by women who are new to the whole catering business. We had pop-up of women-owned businesses. People got opportunity to network, to connect, to create that sense of belonging, building that tribe. We didn't expect a large number to show up, but we had more than 60 women who showed up. Wow. It was not that big a space, and it was a busy space. And the energy and the vibe and the whole sort of spirit that this is it, I needed this. It was a very gray, rainy day in Vancouver. And despite that, on March 8th, when folks were juggling multiple other events that they had options to go for, they chose to come there, they chose to show up. And the beauty with which those women who are already successfully in the labor market, they have careers that they are very comfortable with, or they are where they are in their spaces. It's not that they are looking for a change. How generously they are offering advice, guidance, support, connections is something that is a success that we don't take for granted at all. And again, these are women who, some of them have a seat at the table. These are women who are in that position where they are challenging the status quo. So when we talk about breaking barriers, these are women who are breaking barriers every day. And for them to see the value and support the community is a success. So yeah, success looks different on different days. But right now, we are definitely very excited about the fact that we were able to create that, which has given us so many more ideas, a validation. If there were takeaways from that, when we asked women, what is it that you walked away with? They felt seen, they felt heard.
And I think that that's the biggest thing, is just to feel accepted and to be seen. And I love everything that you've shared, because I think the disparity with women is huge. I was reading this. I think there's about every 1 in 4 women in Canada is an immigrant woman, and every immigrant woman gets paid about 80 cents for every dollar that a man earns, right? So if just based on that, if I have to ask you a question for ignorant men like myself that are out there, what are some things that the women go through that the rest of the world is not considerate of? Or if you would like to pass on that one thing that as a woman you go through that you would want others to be cognizant of, what would that be?
I would say, from speaking from lived experience, it was always the motherhood penalty, as they call it. I know that there is a lot of debate on how this is defined, but taking a career break when you are, in your own definition, reaching a stage you're most proud of in your professional journey, and then choosing to become a parent and coming back into the workforce. I think that is a big challenge, and it's an area that needs definitely more support, more systems in place to be able to provide those tools and opportunities for women who decide to take a motherhood or parental break and want to come back and thrive in the working ecosystem and want to pursue their professional ambitions with as much persistence and passion as they did before they became a parent. I think that's one area. It's universal. It's across countries, continents, and geographies. And so that was one standout reflection for me because of my lived experience. I would say another is, again, having the opportunity to find the right allies or sponsors. So in a professional journey, a lot of women tend to compete with each other or have barriers of not being seen or heard by male peers or counterparts. So finding the right allies within the workplace, but also sponsors, people who will say your name in rooms that you're not in. I think that's another gap that can be fully explored, and there can be a lot more work that can go into that.
Yeah, 100%. I had that one of my notes is when women go into pregnancy, how that affects their careers. So I love that you touch on that, because yeah, that's pretty evident and needs to be talked about. Tina, anything you want to add on what Prachi said so far?
I would piggyback on that 100%. How motherhood changes and transitions a woman's professional growth is, again, a universal thing. It's not limited to one culture or one community or one nation. It's something that as a society, we need to create those systems. We need to create those tools where it is not a break, where it is not challenging. And what the before and after don't need to look so different, because it's something that should be just accepted. It's something that happens. Yes, there are times when it looks different for different people. But if as a community, as a society, we can create those spaces and those tools and systems in place where women don't feel that it's going to impact them or it's going to impact their decision or their career growth or the trajectory that they are taking, their ambitions are taking, that it's going to change everything. Because we both have extremely supportive partners. We both have partners who do all the heavy lifting when they need to do. They are equal partners in every which way. But not everyone has that. But creating that norm in the society that it should be normal to have partners. You should not be asking, you should not be expecting or celebrating the fact that you have partners who do equal amount of heavy lifting. It should be normalized. And the other thing that was coming to my mind was that as women, we don't realize how much value our shared experiences bring. So when we are out there navigating our career pathways, navigating our ambitions and our journeys, you don't know what your lived experience and what your shared experience can do to somebody else's story. So finding allies, finding sponsors, finding mentors, let's make it a habit, and let's make it a habit to create spaces where we are not competing, we are just sharing to ensure that, okay, yeah, this can be a takeaway for somebody else, creating a safe space, inclusive space. And I think somewhere it again circles back to the IWI community, creating a space where stories are being shared in a way that you're celebrating each other's triumphs, in a way that it's a lesson for somebody. It's a question that's percolating in somebody else's mind, and making sure that we are doing that in a very normal, organic manner. That I went through this experience. This is what my takeaway was. This is how I could have done it differently. And oh my God, I would have never realized that. But thank you for sharing that, because that changes everything in my perception in handling XYZ situation. So let's not make it a thing about, which is again something that I've seen as an immigrant in the communities, that we all figured it out. You will also figure it out. Let's create those spaces where we are sharing enough that we are only making it easier for the ones who are following us, right?
And I think it's about celebrating each other and about learning from each other. Prachi, over to you.
I just want to add again, Ravi, that with IWI, with sharing our experiences that Tina has touched upon, we also want to say how there is no gatekeeping of information, right? We want those resources, we want those ideas and knowledge to be democratically shared. It's not, again, just a package of here's your resume template, here are the retail jobs you can go first apply to. We have learned from the community of beautiful, amazing, talented women that they may want to do more than one thing, that they have so much talent that a 9 to 5 or an ambitious career is just scratching the surface of their talent and expertise. And organically, it's no surprise that both Tina and I got to know that there is a need and requirement that women have ambitions and aspirations to build their own businesses. They are already have small business ideas, or they are pursuing their talent in building products and services that are outside of their 9 to 5 jobs. And even with busy careers, even with being pet parents or parents, these women want to have additional income opportunities, additional avenues to grow and showcase their talent. And that's how much of a need there is to have this community and a platform that is allowing women to channelize so much of their talent and contribute eventually to Canadian economy and society in general, that we are getting a lot of requests and we are being asked repeatedly that every time there's a workshop or a knowledge session with Immigrant Women Initiative, why isn't there a pop-up for small businesses to come and showcase their products and services? And that is how the community is actually growing organically. And it's something that we are so proud of, another bit of a nugget of success that we want to share.
Well, 100%. And you should be proud of it because you have created that comfortable environment for others to partake and really accelerate. Tina, what does the future hold for IWI? What do you guys have in the works over the next couple of years?
Couple of years? Okay. I need a moment to think about this. We do have a couple of our sort of a calendar of events already designed for this year. We are very excited about a leadership summit that we will be doing for the community. We still don't know what that timeline looks like, but yes, in the next calendar year, more and more partnerships, more and more sessions with knowledge partners, and some virtual e-learning tools as well, and a leadership summit for the community.
We definitely aspire to be the right and the most ideal professional development and learning and development partner for small to medium to large sized organizations, because a lot of the Canadian labor market, job market, and a lot of Canadian organizations have a large immigrant workforce, right? So people who identify as women with their pronouns of she, her, they, them may want to be tapped into, may want opportunities for professional development. And IWI espouses and aspires to be that partner for small, medium to large organizations. And we have the right knowledge partners. We have the right talent of resources and a hub that is going to be self-sustaining. Once you are a recipient, you don't always just stay a recipient. You then also become that knowledge facilitator and knowledge provider. And so we are creating that circular hub of talent and expertise within the community. And we are willing, ready, and able to provide this as a professional development platform and opportunity for corporates, for businesses that are looking to create that tribe and that allyship for women in their organizations who are racialized immigrant women.
It's lovely. You both are doing a tremendous job. Kudos to you. Keep on doing the excellent work that you're doing because there's a big need for that out there. I want to thank both of you for your time today. We've barely scratched the surface. There's a lot more to go on, and I'm sure our paths would cross again. Thank you so much for sharing insights and sharing your lived experiences, because I'm pretty confident that it would help somebody going through these experiences of their own. Before I let you go today, any final words, any final messages for the audiences?
I think one final word would be that everyone out there, all the women listening, all the women who are at different they are at different stages of their career pathway, immigration journey, we will create a space, the communities and the society will realize that the space is imperative, where each one of you have an opportunity to realize what your full potential is and the significant contributions that you will continue to make in the communities, in the work that you do and beyond. So you are seen, you are heard, and the time is not far when it will be very natural that we won't have to create spaces to make you seen and heard, but you will naturally and organically be seen and heard.
We are waiting for that day. Prachi, any final messages from your side?
Yeah, I'm going to take the opportunity to plug our website, but I know that you will too, Ravi, in the transcript. But please do follow our work. And if there are any folks out there who would like to volunteer with the Immigrant Women Initiative, we are very much open and we are very much welcoming. So do let us know if you have any time to be able to volunteer. We are currently volunteer-led, and we do lean on volunteer time and support to help us grow. You can also follow us on our LinkedIn channel and our social media platforms. And our website is www.vriwi.ca.
That's perfect. Thanks for highlighting that, Prachi. I'll pass on the information to everybody and we'll make sure that people get in touch with you. Keep on with the great work. Thank you once again for your time today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.